So 9 of Untitled Blood Bowl Project podcast development. TV gang.
2025.
Yes, volume 1. We
So,
got a lot this week to catch up on. So
is it too late to take the Project 2025 branding and apply it to the podcast?
we can call it a reclamation.
Yeah, we're taking it back. We're taking back the term Project 2025.
So that's the goal. Yeah, we got lots of Blood Bowl to cover this week. We got a couple week 7 games, most of the week 8 games, and then a fresh slate of week 9 games to look at, with a little detour to talk some numbers.
Yeah.
If you enjoy Moneyball, you might enjoy
Right. Yeah.
the deep dive on this episode.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna kind of look at the Tourplay statistics and see what those mean. There's a bunch of wacky numbers that are in there. If you've met me in person, I've probably talked your ears off about them, but this is the mobile experience of getting your ears talked off about things with 3-letter acronyms. So
Yeah. Well, let's just jump right in. We got 2 week 7 games that we did not have to talk about last week. First of those was Badminton Rising over the Gnarly Oaks 1-0. It seems like a classic
yeah,
game.
I actually got a recap from Sean for that game. Sean, it was a game that he wanted back because he felt like he had enacted the game plan that he wanted against Jim, and he had managed to stymie Jim's offense and um, like kept him scoreless in the first half, and then in the second half, Sean is slowly advancing down the field, and he's almost at the spot where the Jim can't win, and he's setting up like the stalling cage almost on the goal line, and apparently a halfling snakes a dodge and falls over. And that opens up the board position for Jim to sneak in there, pop the ball loose. The ball ends up in the hands of a ghoul who runs like 20 squares the other way. And every attempt that Sean had to try to go catch the ghoul ended with some sort of turnover. And so he's just watching a ghoul run away with the game in the other direction, just failing roll after roll to try to catch it, which is that's an infuriating loss.
Yeah, absolute
So
heartbreaker.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Other game, Electric City Maulers 4-0 over the Blood Moon Gang. Seemed like an average sort of.
It seemed like the average Goblin Slaughterfest.
That's pretty much all I got to say about
Yeah,
that.
I don't. There's not a whole lot to add to it. I mean, there wasn't like a lot of damage done back because goblins can do that sometimes,
Mhm.
right? You might slaughter 6 goblins, and then some maniac with chainsaw kills the best guy in your team. So you never know with goblins really how it's going to play out. You kind of got to be careful. You got to be on your guard. When I played Amazons, it was that way a lot. Where yeah, they can't really hurt you with blocks, but all the dirty tricks are where they get you. So if I think if Warren sold out harder for the like the bomber, you know, the fanatic, I think his list would probably be doing more damage. But I think even he has his limits to the amount of goblin shenanigans he wants to tolerate during any given game.
That's probably to the benefit of that entire division.
Yeah,
Because it's about time now where you could just be hating on people and just trying to take out some
right,
players.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the if you Blood Bowl is a great game if you're a spite based player. Absolutely, you if you don't care about winning, but you want other people to lose in the long run, you can absolutely load up your team into whatever your vehicle of preference is and drive it into the parking garage of their local stadium and 1995 Oklahoma City bombing them if you want. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's our week 7 catch ups. Week 8 preview or week 8 recap. Most of the games we got here. That makes division. First game up, the V Stars, the 1-0 win over Might of Asgard. I know we were talking about that as kind of a must win game.
yeah, I gotta hand it to Mike. There's a lot of times where he pulls wins out where I'm 100% certain he's got no chance. And this is one of those games where I thought he was going to get beat up, but it really looked like he got to dictate the flow of the game. Put Austin on his back foot the whole time. Took out a Valkyrie relatively early in the game, like turn five, and apparently that just left Austin's team in a lurch, trying to figure out how to score without Valkyries in play. So
Yep. Next game up, of Salesman 2-1 win over the GGs of Electric City. I caught the end of this game, and there was potential for the Humans to tie it up. There was a 6-up pass into a 5-up catch, and then a failed dodge.
oh,
Uh,
the pass and the catch were made.
yes, yep.
Awesome,
Both are
awesome.
made, and then
Yeah,
the subsequent
it's
run to the end zone failed.
it's the easy stuff. I'm telling you, you'll fail the easy stuff when you're trying to do something wacky to end a game. On the topic of spite-based play, Blood Bowl is also a sorrow-based game. It will do the thing that will hurt you the most. That's where you'll fail.
Yes.
I was gonna say it looked like casualties and fouls were flying pretty fast and loose in that game, so it looks like both teams probably didn't have much in the tank by the end of it.
Yeah, yeah. Both teams very willing to foul. Both teams can do lots of damage. Like Black Orcs, especially now, picking up a lot of momentum going into the season. Next game up. Speaking of casualties, Return to Monkey 1-0 win over Halfling Justice, a new division leader for Dead Man's Hand.
Yep.
So that one, going into the game, Sean had 9 casualties on the season and finished this game with 7,
Yeah.
nearly doubling his total.
Yeah. So from what I've heard, the Wayne got the ball first in that game, and one of the first things that happened was that a tree snaked the take root roll, and so it got stuck at midfield. And then uh, what Sean did is he actually put 3 Noblars on the line, didn't give Wayne any hits, any line hits against ogres, and so he uh, had ogres set up as like kind of like a loose picket across the line, and so Griff and some halflings went to go blitz one of the ogres on the edge. And then when Wayne went to fail or went to foul that ogre with the sneaky get, he got caught on the injury roll, and so the player got ejected. And so on Wayne's turn, between the snake take root and the kicked out sneaky get, he's down 2 players, and uh yeah, like a Noblar blew up, but Sean's got all of his ogres. And so at that point, the ogres like surround the halfling cage, and Griff snakes a dodge and falls over. And that sets up the ogre brutality to occur. Um, yeah, I told we were talking before the podcast that the ogres began spreading the halflings around the field like so much jam over toast. Once the Griff was not there to protect them. So,
Yeah, gotta love Halfling Pate.
yep,
Next game up, Righteous Gemstones over Teal Terror. That was a 2-0 win. That game was really, it was just kind of like a dicing.
yeah,
Um, if you look at the Tourplay recap, there's one event for Barbie's team, and it was a player getting injured on a failed dodge. Um, it
yeah,
was really just a going into the game. I was like, this is one. There's like need to win games from here on out. So I was playing fairly conservatively. Wasn't able to get any casualties, but got 2 touchdowns. The last touchdown was, I guess, the most interesting point of the game where the runner had gotten pushed back and was trying to set up a bunch of chain pushes so he could dodge out and score. But there wasn't a good lane for him to dodge and then push to the end zone. So pushing, instead of being able to score himself, he had to pass. So it's a 4-up pass to a lineman who caught it and then ran it
On a
out.
four, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's funny, yeah. Yeah, the feared dwarven passing game in action right there.
yeah, like going into the game, I already asked if like I had a passing game, and I was like, I have completed a pass with this team before.
Right.
That was last season, so I got the first completion of the season with
That's funny.
with the runner.
Yeah.
Last game of this division, the Rotten Peaches, Grey Pox Fang. We're still waiting on that result. That one's coming up after this is recorded tonight, so we'll
Yeah.
have that on next episode.
Yep. And this is Joel swapping into the league for Maria, playing his rookie Skaven team. I don't hate rookie Skaven into Amazons with skills because you're going to get some SPP. And, so he'll have some interesting stuff to some decisions to make.
Better wrap it up for Batman Sand this week. Snake Eyes Division. We got a couple games we're waiting on here. So we don't have any results for the Southern California Trojans and Zero Luck Chucks or the Blood Moon Gang and Dodge This.
Yeah,
Uh,
the Dodge this. Nate is currently being an international man of mystery. He's somewhere in international waters. Uh, so we'll have to wait for him to return from his secret mission before he can get back to playing some Blood Bowl.
yeah. And then the other game was rescheduled, I believe, due to illness. So
Right.
we'll get back to it. We'll have stuff on that. If you want to hear our takes on those games, we still talk about it in the previous episode. So, go listen to that. If you've listened to it already, give it another listen. Maybe there was some Easter eggs you missed. Up next, we got Electric City Maulers, Bad Moon Rising. A bit of an upset
Right.
here. You could say 1-0 win for the Maulers.
Yeah, especially it's definitely an upset after the turn one casualty of a Minotaur, right? You see that the Necro team takes out a big guy early in the game, and then you think the advantage has got to swing their way. That's not what happened here. Looks like the Dark Elf managed to pick up the ball somewhere in there and score, and then played a bunch of defense. I'm guessing when there's no updates like that in tour play, there's either KOs or neither team is really doing much. And yeah, it's tough to say to know what happened in the back half of this game that kept it to 1-0. Normally, like protracted not scoring for whoever gets the ball in the second half will often end up being a score for the other team because that means they've taken the ball and run the other way with it. Um, who knows what happened here?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We'll have to get some more recaps from those players at
yep,
a later date.
yep,
Up next, we got RUS and Plague of Gods. RUS took Bomber. Bombers immediately exited the game on turn one.
yeah. He detonated himself.
And wouldn't matter. It's 3-0 win.
Right. I was gonna say it's been a long time since I played against a bomber who blew himself up. I would love for that trend to continue as the season moves on. For me personally, but this is some classic Juan luck in action here, where something that appears to be disastrous for him really instills a sense of confidence in his opponents that is not founded, and he just runs away with the game. I'm guessing, from what I understand, the Tomb Kings just couldn't pick up the ball. And what you don't want is a ball just laying around on the ground for gutter runners to come and scoop up and run the other way.
Yeah. Also, when I was looking at the recap for this game, there's an uncharacteristically high number of actual injuries for the Tomb King team. 5 casualties, 4 Skaven, resulted in 4 injuries. So normally you figure you get like another 1 or 2 regenerations from that. Just didn't work out. So being down players, I think also probably.
Yeah, that makes that turns a route. That turns like a bad game into a route, right? Once you start losing players.
Yep. Next, we got Great Tree Good Boy Use and the Slee Stacks, a 3-0 win. This was a heartbreaker for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. I thought Jeremy could pull this one out because he actually uprooted both trees.
Yeah.
Like he got both trees off the table.
Mhm.
And at that point, the gnomes are just like running for cover. But Yeah, from what I heard from Will, he did a really good job of taking out skinks, which is a very legitimate strategy against lizardmen to beat on the guys that are easiest to hurt on the team. And so, once again, I think Jeremy just wasn't protecting the ball the way he should have. Um, and uh, and so that's why he ended up. He was down to the half, but with no trees, I actually think he has got a chance to tie that game up, maybe even win it, just because skinks are that fast. If you get enough damage into the gnomes. So
Yeah. Rublo doing just
yeah,
crazy work in that game. So,
Rumbleau was a menace, yeah, for sure.
and then we got the game Slaughterhouse 11, and no, your recap.
Yeah. So the game started out kind of ugly. I lost a player on turn one to KO, and I think he broke armor on two more people, so I didn't have like the full team to activate. Uh, and my blocks on turn one went sideways, and I rolled like double skulls, and I was out. I was out two rerolls on turn one. The blood spawn didn't do anything on turn one. He just kind of pushed a white around, and then his second turn of blocks weren't great. He just kind of pushed some of my people around. And then he threw a one die block to cap off his turn. It was just a white throwing a hit on, I think, a corn gore or somebody like that. He was just throwing a one die block just to see if he can get something to happen. He rolled a skull. He opted not to re-roll it. And then I broke armor and KO'd the white. And then my first activation was blood spawn into his other white, and it was a casualty. And then my next activation was Surf Ivan, and that was a casualty. Neither the white or Ivan regenerated. And then I had a Blood Seeker hit a zombie and KO that zombie. And so in like four successive uh, activations, I took a player off the pitch. And uh, I thought I was in great shape after that. And I was like dictating the flow of his offensive drive, which is an incredible place to be in. And I had knocked the ball loose, and we were scrumming over it. He ended up getting a ghoul with it, a block dodge ghoul with it. So I sent. This is like turn five, I think. Send a character after it and hit it with frenzy. Don't splash it. Push it. Don't splash it. I set up another block because of the frenzy push with a wrestle character, and the ghoul is now two spaces away from the end zone. So I get a hit, I get a push, I don't get a boat down, don't get a splash here. I push the ghoul next to the end zone. I still get two dice with a wrestle character. I'm out of rerolls, and I double skull. And so his ghoul is able to, with like a blitz and a chain push, his ghoul is able to dodge out of there, make a break for the end zone, and score. When I had it dead to rights on the sideline. And then I get kept out of the end zone in the first half. Just I think I get like I think the kickoff is like a timeout or something. No, it's not a timeout. It's a bungled drive, which is not atypical for this corn team. You don't really have a passing game, and so in the second half, I do get like a little bit of damage on his team, and he's having to play defense with like seven or something. And I do score, and I kick the ball back to him because I'm trying to play to win. And that's where we get a timeout. And so the clock is shortened even more. Um, and but I get a favorable kick, and the ball is kind of like in his backfield, so he has to like have the ghoul double back to go get it and then run back forward. And so I have him kind of like boxed in slightly on his side of the line of scrimmage. And then on his turn 15, I think he peels like two or three of my people. He gets like a bunch of casualties right there. It's kind of like mirrored in the course of the game. But he doesn't recover the ball, and it's on the ground. So I have to set up like a this series of like three chain blocks to get his people away from the ball so that I can have a corn gore dodge out, pick up the ball, run over, hand it off to a marauder, and that marauder runs in to score on turn 16 to go up 2-1, um, and and seal the game for me. So it was every time I played Morales, we've always got a tight game. So yeah, I had that really lucky spike early on in the game about taking a bunch of his players off the pitch, and then the whole rest of the game, I just couldn't hurt people at the rate that I had to start with, and so I was scrapping tooth and claw to get that win. So
Yeah. Awesome. We got one last game. The Imperial City Retainers was played the Gnarly Oaks for the interdivisional. It's a 2-1 win for the Gnarly Oaks. Definitely put the Gnarly in that game. Lots of damage done.
yeah, it looked like the retainers spent a bunch of that game just getting hit in the face. Um, Fred's scoring touchdowns, and for that, I'm proud of him. Um, I think in times past when Fred was playing Skaven, he might get shut out of a game. So I'm glad he at least got some points on the board. The getting hit back thing does take some work with Skaven to get used to. So
Yeah, I saw the second half setup for this. There were 4 players that had been casualty to that point, and a third had been KO'd. So Fred was setting up with 6 on defense going into the second half, and had to put the Rat Ogre on the line because it was a
yeah,
Rat Ogre, 2 Blitzers, 3 Gutter Runners. That
yeah,
was all
yeah.
he had
You
left.
feed them the red ogre and the blitzers at that point. That's absolutely the right call.
So
You probably just bunch all your dudes up. You probably put red ogre, blitzer right beside each other, and then just put your gutter runners 7 spaces back in the backfield or something like that. Just to keep them from getting blitzed.
yeah. Yep. Biggest element out of that game are some skill ups from Skaven.
I don't want to use a public forum to belittle the players in this league.
Fair enough. Well, we got our in memoriam section. Moving on. Uh, in memoriam had a couple players die. From our week 7 catch up game, Lurch, the lineman for Bad Moon Rising, died.
Yeah,
Seems improbable, but it happens.
yeah, it's a zombie. There's always another zombie.
We had 2 deaths for the retainers, Paul Shorttail and Twitchy, both linemen, both murdered early on in that game.
Yeah, Skaven lineman, pretty hazardous position.
Yeah.
We've known this for a while.
And then we had a trade-off of deaths in that game between GG's of Electric City and Out Salesman. The GG's losing Ulrich Geyer, a lineman, and Out Salesman losing Freeze, who was a Goblin lineman.
Yeah, so the Goblin lineman had a level up. He was actually the second individual dirtiest player in the league. So we got to give him a salute for his filthy play. Um, because it's going to be like the Jim's werewolf where that character is going to be locked on the leaderboard and slowly the living players will pass him. But yeah, we'll always remember you, you filthy little goblin.
Yeah. No more fouls to drum out. Okay, well that wraps up our weekly recap. So we got our deep dive. We can talk about some numbers. We've got our little Pepe Sylvia style board set
Yeah.
up, so we can talk about this.
Yep. Smoking a cigarette, red marker, making circles, making X's on the board. This,
Few holes written in large
yeah.
letters.
Um, I'm starting to believe there's not a butthurt score at all. The Uh, I labeled this section. What exactly do all those numbers in tour play mean anyway, right? And I think it's first things first. We have to talk about like the way tie breaks and points work in the league. This is not unusual to people who've played any amount of Blood Bowl at this point. Somehow, if this is the first time you've listened to a Blood Bowl podcast, and you are completely alien to the concept of earning points for wins. This is not unique to Blood Bowl. This is often used in card games and chess and all kinds of other tournaments as well. In this system, you earn 3 points for a win. 1 point for a draw, and you get 0 points for a loss. Um, and so you may end up in a situation where you might have multiple players having the same score at the end of the league, because you've won and lost the same number of games. Uh, the way the tie breaks are set up for the league is that the first tie break is head to head. So whoever won the head to head game, will jump ahead in the tiebreak score. The next is touchdown differential. Right now, this is the way our league works. This is not a universal Blood Bowl tie breaks, right? A lot of tournaments will use these, but this is the specifically for our league. The next tie break is touchdown differential. So not number of touchdowns, but touchdown differential. So if you score more points than you let your opponent score on you, then you have the higher differential, even if it's like 6-0 versus, you know, 11-9 or something like that, right? The 6-0 person has the higher differential. They're the one who gets the nod as far as tie breaks go. And then the next tie break beyond that is touchdown plus casualty differential. So once again, this is differential, not total number of casualties. You want to dish out damage and receive less damage in return. So that's the way those tie breaks work. Uh, so uh, that we got to get all that out of the way so that you understand the way the standings play out. Now, our division, our this league has an interdivisional game, which kind of throws off some of the numbers in different ways. We let the interdivisional game count towards your point total for the season. In the past, it was just like a way to earn star player points. We didn't let it count against you. The last time we did an interdivisional, this time around, we thought it might as well mean something, besides just an opportunity to advance your team. This time around, we thought, let's make it actually matter.
Yeah. That's the basic tiebreakers, but if you're looking at Tourplay standings, a lot of things make sense. Touchdown differential, casualties, completions, injuries, deaths, fouls. Then you get over to a couple numbers, a couple abbreviations that
Yeah,
I might not fully understand.
right. So these are the ones that are that I can talk about. Now, the funny thing is, like a lot of these numbers have actually existed for like 100 years. Um, you've got basically three numbers. And I think the interesting two are the first two. You've got BHZ, which we have often referred to as the butt hurts score in the league, which is one I think is just funny to say. But it's supposed to stand for Buchholz score. And then the second number, SBR, is Sonnenborn Burger score. And the Sonnenborn Burger score is actually older than the Buchholz score. Both of those were created for chess. If you're not familiar with chess, it's like Blood Bowl, except you don't roll dice. How long do you think I can keep this bit going? I'm not sure.
At least a couple more seconds. Sure.
And then the third interesting number there is the cumulative score, the CU cumulative. And the cumulative is the easiest to explain, so I think I'll start with that one. Essentially, the cumulative is a running tally of all of your point totals for each week after you have played your game for that week. So, in the first week, if you win a game, you get 3 points for winning the game. Your total score is now 3 points. Your cumulative score is now 3 points. After week two, if you win that game, you earn 3 points for a total score of 6 points. Your cumulative score is now 9 points because it's your week two total of six plus your week one total of three. And so cumulative basically rewards you for getting wins earlier in a season because you get full value from those wins for a whole season. They keep giving you points towards it. I ultimately think there's very little to gain from the cumulative score other than just knowing when people peaked in a season. Like if a team won a bunch early on and then lost stuff down the stretch, that's where you can see like a cumulative score being like like a lower total than something else somebody else had, right? For Blood Bowl purposes, I don't think this really means anything. I actually think your wins later on matter because teams are better later in the season.
Yeah. That was like one thing I was gonna say looking at this is like, I think some of what we want to use these scores for, I think if you are a player in the league who's not tasked with looking at all the scores and understanding the stuff to do a podcast every week, being able to like take a look at the standings and kind of get a feel for an upcoming opponent, or like measuring benchmarking your performance against other people in the league. And I think the cumulative one for sure is like, I think, interesting in that perspective, just to say like, okay, is this like a streaky, are you like going on streaks here? Are you building up to something? And it can be that to me was the most interesting kind of aspect there, of like, how do you use these scores to measure up
Right.
against other people around you?
Yeah. And so, I mean, and that actually, I think the other scores do a better job of telling you all that information too, right? So we'll start with the Buchholz score. The Buchholz score is very simply computed. It is the number of points that all of the players that you have played have earned. So what this is trying to represent is is trying to represent your strength of schedule. And the Buchholz score will go up as your opponents earn more points. And so you can actually really early in a league, I like looking at Buchholz scores to see who has had like an easier schedule to start the season with, right? Um, if you look at somebody's Buchholz score on like week 3 and it's like 20, then they've played some players who have like earned a lot of points. Um, and whereas somebody may have like a after like week 4, their Buchholz score might be 6. That means between their 4 opponents, they have like 2 total wins, right? And so you're playing against players who presumably are easier. Now, granted, this is Blood Bowl; anything can happen in any given game. But the Buchholz score is a good kind of like indicator of like how tough someone's had it in the league so far.
Yeah. Going to the last one, the Sonnenborn burger. Like, how is that one calculated?
Yeah, so this one's a little bit trickier. This one is calculated by taking the number of points of people you have beaten. You get the full value for that. If you have tied someone, you get half of the points that they have earned. And you add that to your total, and you get 0 points for anybody that you have lost to. Now, I think Sonnenborn is actually an incredibly interesting rating because this tells you the quality of wins that you have had. You can have someone who has like a fairly impressive Buchholz score, and then if you look at their Sonnenborn and it's low, that means they've lost games against their tough opponents, and they've only beaten the opponents that are weaker in the schedule. So yeah, I think Sonnenborn is one, especially in like the middle of the season, towards the end of the season. That's the one that I think you can kind of tell the lethality of a team in a way. It's a team that, for whatever reason, against the hard opponents, like a low score is going to indicate that you haven't won the games that were the most challenging, right? So now, a lot of these are like aggregate scores, and there's a lot of nuance that gets hammered out of the intricacies of a Blood Bowl game. That when you condense it down to like a single number like these, so I don't accept these as like gospel fact, but I do think they're really interesting to look at. You can take a look at teams in the past where, they may have been like third in the standing. They had like a pretty high Buchholz score, but, they lost to the teams that were in first and second place in the division. And so the teams they won against were the teams that were much further down in the standings. Um, so it's something to look at. It can kind of give you an indication of like a paper tiger sometimes. Somebody who a team that looks kind of scary but doesn't necessarily deliver the goods when it matters the most.
Yeah, so like what you would be looking for really is like the bucals and the HDR. Like the closer those are
Right.
together, that means you're like doing the most. You're maximizing your potential against the greatest of your opponents.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, the Blood Bowl has a ton of other numbers, especially if you play in the NAF. There's a lot of other numbers. They have like a global Glico rating, and its goal is to try to uh, rate players, and they actually put in like a rating decay, where so if you're not playing that often, that is factored into the score. So this if Buchholz and Sonnenborn Burger sounded complex to you, you didn't really want to like keep up with it. Don't worry, there's even more complex numbers related to Blood Bowl. Unfortunately, like our leagues don't count towards those ratings and stuff like that. I'd love for them to, but that's just not the case. NAF games are mostly tournament style, which is a completely different animal than league games. But yeah, there's also like a team rating that people have for each team in the NAF. That starts at like 150, and you lose in game points based off of the people that you play. And those are your more traditional ELO systems. If you played Magic, I don't know, 15 years ago or more, when they actually had a rating, and your rating mattered because you got invites and buys and stuff off of that. Like these aren't like new concepts to gaming. Elo has been a thing in chess forever. These a lot of these ratings. Some people care about this stuff, some people don't. I tend to skew towards caring about it. Like I want my rating to be good, but I'm not going to ruin my life if my rating slips. Um, you know, just because it's that's probably healthy to not like attach your self-worth to the outcome of any particular Blood Bowl game, because that's a way to get really upset.
And I'm sure we can sit here and talk about all these numbers
Oh yeah, I
for
love to.
hours. If you would like to get it in person, information on
Just
Glico
show up at the
Store.
store and just ask me about the rating topics. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. Well, that was our deep dive this week. We've got week 9 matchups preview. Dead Man's Hand, Halfling Justice versus the Grey Pox Fangs. We This one I think is going to be a bit of a question mark until we see the matchup with the Rotten Peaches for the Grey Pox Fangs.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Joel the benefit of the doubt and assume that he is probably a dangerous player, because he apparently played a bunch of Blood Bowl prior to the 2020 release. Now, he hasn't played with the new rules, but a lot of classic Blood Bowl skills are transferable to the new edition. He's also playing Skaven, which is a very good team, and it's not a good matchup for halflings because um, uh, halflings don't like seeing fast players, stuff like gutter runners. Gutter runners can run laps around a halfling team, and halflings just can't catch them. So now it's a rookie team, so he doesn't have like a whole lot of like the safety net that a lot of like more experienced teams would have. Um, but Wayne also won't get to play the inducement game at the level that he's become accustomed to at this point in the season. Um, and because if you take the Halfling Master Chef, suddenly you can't take Griff against this team. And so yeah, I'm excited to see what Joel can do in the league. I'm looking forward to him playing in future seasons for sure. And these are some good games. I mean, he's coming into the season having to play against like number 2 and number 3 in the standings right now. So losing both of those games, but putting up a good performance is like absolutely respectable. And if he wins both those games, then it's like, uh-oh, you know,
Yeah.
we got another shooter in the league.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. But next we got G's of Electric City and the Rotten Peaches. This will be interesting just because that human team has shown potential to just dumpster opposing players.
Yeah, well, and I want to say going into this game, Jennings has every advantage except for one. Chris is Jennings' Blood Bowl nemesis. Chris is the person who killed Bertram Smith, the strength up white from several seasons ago. Chris is the one who killed him. And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, that white needed to be brought to justice for his many crimes against the living. More power to you, Chris. But I think if Jennings is going to shake off the curse, I think this is a good game for it because I think his team is in. I mean, Jennings' team is like if you had to pick a team in the league that you wish you had, I would pick Jennings' Amazon team, right? Mostly because of my familiarity, but he's done a really good job developing the team so far.
Yeah. Yes. Not looking forward to that
Yeah,
matchup. It's getting more and more inevitable. Up next, got Teal Terror and the Jolly Rotters. Teal Terror still looking for their first win of the season, but Jolly Rotters are a bit of a shifting position. They have lost three of the last five, so
yeah. I don't. If Barbie manages to score a touchdown in this game, I'll be proud of her. I don't love her chances against the undead team here. She's done a really good job of keeping her minute of like keeping her people alive. She's in last place, but she has like the least number of casualties scored against her. Now, the last time I said that, it ended up she ended up losing a bunch of players, but I don't think that'll be the case this time around. Because surely you can't curse a team the same way twice, right?
no, sure, yeah. Uh, maybe Jim should like cover his ears
Cover
for this.
yours.
Up next, we got Return to Monkey and Might of Asgard. Talked a little bit about the Norse game against Mike and what else. Didn't go fully into the extent of the damage. There's an All-Runner missing this game,
It's not good. You want your strength places on the table against ogres for sure.
and the Valkyrie with three skills is also missing the game.
Once again, you really want dauntless pieces when you're playing against ogres.
And yeah, it's
Austin is getting
looking.
the inducements here.
Yeah,
Sean is the stunty team. Austin is getting the inducements. And he's not getting enough to really make a difference.
yeah,
I would not want to be in Austin's shoes for this game. Having played, I've got a decent amount of experience with Norse. Um, Ogres is a really, it's not like an unfavorable matchup, but it's not a cozy matchup. And that's because you really don't want those ogres smashing your team to pieces. And so if you miss position in this game or you have a costly turnover, then what happened to the halflings is going to happen to you.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely a game to watch, not necessarily for the competitive nature of it, but just to see what comes
Yeah,
out of the end of the ogre meat grinder, what's
right.
left.
Yeah, and there's the Yeti's in the game.
Yeah, he's
Yeti's in the game. There's always a chance that the Yeti goes sick house and just kills a couple ogres. It's an interesting matchup because a lot of times in like this ogre Norse thing, there's like four people on the pitch at the end of the game, and it's going to be like three ogres and a Noblar versus like two Norse linemen, maybe a Yeti, maybe an Ulfwarner, maybe a Valkyrie type of thing, right? Like it's just I have a picture from when I played ogres back in season three where I set up on defense and the ogre player had set up on offense. He had three ogres on the line. I had put my three Norse linemen on the line. I had an Ulfwerner and a Valkyrie in the backfield. You took a picture and there's just 10 models on the pitch. And it was really funny looking. So
all right. Up next, we got Up Salesman, Imperial City Retainers. This is going to be a huge strength mismatch. Red Ogre's out this game.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
very costly.
yeah. So that's going to be, especially with Jurgen having hit a stride at this point in the season, jumped up in the top half of the division.
Yeah, and this is one where the speed advantage matters quite a bit, but like black orcs are really good at taking care of 8 armor, right? Just the nature of grab and the way it works. You can if you hit a player multiple times, you can just hit them multiple times in the same turn, right? You can just smash them around the pitch, and you hit enough players enough times, and you'll take them off the field. So if I'm Fred, I do not put my gutter runners anywhere near black orcs if I can help it. And then you want to try to go bully goblins if you can, because that's how he's going to score. Right, the black orc team has to score using goblins one way or another. But you don't want your gutter runners getting tossed around, because that's going to end up bad for you.
Yep. We've got last matchup in the division for the week: Book of Grudges and the V Stars. Uh, Chaos Stars
Yes,
have been on kind of a skid.
yeah, and the V Stars are. If you look at the last 2 games for both these teams, Book of Grudges is 0-2 and V Stars is 2-0. Now, in the past, this was not a good matchup, but Chaos Stars don't have tackle anymore. And I'm really thinking the Chaos Dwarfs feel like they don't have tackle at this point in the season. They're wishing they had 6 copies of tackle on the team, especially against some of the matchups they've had. This is another one of those matchups where you're looking around for tackle and it's just not on your team yet, you know. Um, and yeah, I'm interested to see the outcome. I feel like this is like a must win for both teams. If Ide wins, then he's back up where he needs to be. If Mike wins, then I think he actually will jump up into the playoff standings at that point. So,
Yep. Seiko's match this week. First matchup: Slaughterhouse 11 and Great Tree Good Boys. What's your take on your game?
right. So I'm playing this one right after we record this. So you might be listening to a really funny thing depending on how the game plays out. Because I could just say something and the game goes sideways, right? I like this matchup on paper. He's got wrestle and I've got a whole lot of juggernaut, right? So the corngors can absolutely bully the gnomes. Now, the question is, I am giving him a lot of inducement money, and I don't know how he's going to spend it. And there's quite a few permutations. And because we're playing tonight, I'll go through some of the ones and I'll say the one that I don't want to play against because this won't exist until sometime in the future after the game has already happened. I don't particularly want to play against like Griff, Cindy, Wizard because that's a lot of stuff that I can't. Both Cindy and Wizards are things that I can't play around based off of what's on the pitch. Now, both of those hopefully are only the Wizard's only one use. It'll force me to play like a slightly different setup, but it's just unpredictable. I don't really want like my blood spawn being hit with a Wizard fireball, and I don't like. I'm still shell shocked from bombs from the Nate games. I'm not enthused about playing against another bomber so soon. But uh, that's the arrangement that I don't want. Now he could also do Morg plus Cindy plus some stuff, and I think I would favor that one slightly more. I've played against Morg already in the season, and uh, like the Bloodspawn and Morg have this interesting like face-off dynamic one of them's Travolta, the other one is Nicolas Cage, right? And you don't want to commit the other one into a place where the other one gets to attack, gets the alpha strike on them, because the it's so likely that one of them takes the other off the pitch when they land the first hit. So you don't want to be the one who like sends Morg into say like a blood seeker, knock him over, not take it out of the game, and then have the blood spawn blitz you in return, and then Morg is out of the picture. Um, that's why I don't mind giving inducement money to people that I've played against so far, because I think the blood spawn's so lethal that like virtually any model that's put on the pitch, the blood spawn has a really good chance of just taking it off the table.
Hmm.
Um, and so plus there's always frenzy in crowd surfing. That's how I handled Ivan in the last game. Now that was lucky getting the casualty and him not regenerating. But uh, the I don't mind fighting star players with this team because of the natural claws, mighty blow, and the blood spawn. There's a couple other permutations because you could do like I think you can do maple. It's 210, and Griff. Maple Griff is 490, I believe. That's an interesting permutation. I got to play against Maple this past weekend in some tournament playtesting. And Maple is a really interesting piece, but ultimately not super deadly. And I think Maple is better against like agility teams than against bash teams. Though Maple isn't a slouch against bash teams. So
Cool. Lots of good in-depth analysis there. Oh, next we got Dodge This and the Slee Stacks. We won't know the state of Nate's team going into the game until he plays his Week 8 game. Uh, but I think this might be potential. I know Nate's been having a kind of rough go of it this season with the Black Orcs. So potential for Jeremy to kind of pop up and steal a win from him here.
could be, yeah. I this matchup is Lizardmen versus bad Lizardmen, right? I think that's the common consensus for Black Orcs is they're just like not good Lizardmen. Because your Black Orcs are slower, your Goblins are slower, the Lizardmen are just faster than you. Now you've got a skill advantage plus you've got some inducement advantage, but I'm not sure how much inducements the Black Orcs are going to get here. A bomber is really good against lizardmen. So if you can take that, then you're probably in good shape.
Hmm. Yeah. Up next, we got the Blood Moon Gang and ROUS. Um,
What's your over under on star player points for the Skaven team in this game?
I actually had that in my notes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mine is 34.5.
You think 34.5? Okay, yeah. Yeah. I hope Warren figures out how to use inducements to damage some Skaven in this game.
Mm.
Otherwise, Juan could end up with a disgusting amount of star player points. And like the last four games, I think Juan's been 3-1, and I think he's outscored his opponents like 16-1 or something like that, or 16-2, something along those lines. Where this Skaven team early in the season, it was some Starship Troopers. I'm doing my part to keep Juan in check. But later in the season, some people they're not carrying their weight about bullying Juan around. So this Skaven team has been given some oxygen, and it's really flourishing.
And next, we got Plague of Gods and Electric City Maulers.
We'll have like 35 strength worth of models and just like seven figures on that table, on the table, right?
Yeah, that's good. I have this one kind of just as a toss up right now. There's like the Maulers don't have a ton of skills. Still two big guys without skills. The Tomb Guardians starting to pick up skills. You got like a block. There's like one with block mighty blow. There's one with brawler. And we have a second one with block. So two block.
Two block mummies, that's not bad. That's not bad. Um, yeah, the note that I had here says big meaty men slapping meat. I think it's just like big piles of strength just getting into the middle of the field and just beating on each other, right?
Yeah.
So Who
And
knows if the ball will go anywhere?
yeah, and with 390K in inducement money for Team Kings could be something
Yeah,
another meaty man.
right. I mean, Ivan looks pretty good, right? Because you've got that Dark Elf on Henderson's team, so having Ivan as like a nice counter to that piece, it's got to help.
Mhm. That's one I think will be interesting to watch to see like how that plays out in terms of just the scoring.
There's a good chance that I have to play the winner or loser of that. I have to play one of the people from that game. My remaining games. I have four remaining games. Two of them are against both Ness and Henderson. So if they do damage to each other, and then I have to play the person who took the most damage from the game, I won't be mad. You know. So make sure the body count's high, guys.
Yeah. All right, up next we got the Southern California Trojans, Badman Rising.
It's a classic. This is a showdown season one, I think. Chase and Jim played for the finals in season one. The roles were reversed. Jim was playing the elf team. Chase was playing Skaven. Yeah, this is a good one. This is which team? Which of you is in a better place at this point in the season? I think Chase's team might be, because I think Jim has had a rough go of it for the last several games. Not to mention the ultimate tragedy of the werewolf just echoes this far down the league, right? You losing that werewolf has made Jim's team exponentially worse, logarithmically worse at this point, right? So um, I might say Chase wins this game. I might say that. Not trying to curse Jim. I just
Yeah.
think Jim's got a lot of he's got a lot of work cut out for him.
He's been cursed enough by
Yeah,
you at this point.
yeah.
Once again, stating my disavowal of all previous comments
I'm not trying to
made.
curse Jim. It's the broadcasters, the generalized power of a broadcaster to speak stuff into existence, whether you meant to or not, right? Like you're just pointing out, hey, this thing could happen. And thanks to quantum string theory,
All right, last matchup for the division. We got Zero Luck Chucks and Gnarly Oaks. Sean has been really hitting stride recently with the last couple games, really inflicting damage, scoring well, like dictating game presence. So,
yeah, with only the loss to Jim in recent memory, and Sean and this is some lore for everybody. Sean and Coop were roommates like 20 years ago, for college. And we had a Blood Bowl league back then. So this kind of harkens back to that era of our lives where we didn't have anything to do but, cut class and play Blood Bowl. So
last game, interdivisional game. I guess talk about my game now. So I'm playing. So No and Righteous Brimstones. Playing Shambling Undead for the second time in 3 weeks. This roster not quite as developed as Clay's. So it's only 11 players. There's three ghouls currently. Morales has some treasury, so that could change going into the game. Keeping an eye on that, but uh, I am again looking at this game. Like my thought process going into these games is like I just need to win. I'm gonna be banking on the fact that dwarves out of the box start with enough skills. Any other SPP gained or skills added to the team beyond that is going to be a bonus going into the playoffs. So I'm just like taking whatever SPP I can get as I secure wins, but not looking to like sell out for casualties. Just gonna try to play solid defense and a slow trudging uh death by a thousand cut offense. And
yeah, death by 1,000 pound death machine, right?
yeah.
Yeah, the death roller I think is like if you get to leverage the death roller for maximum effect in the game, you're right where you want to be. Knocking a mummy over and then flattening the mummy. Um, Picking on the whites and the ghouls is also really good. Zombies, you get some ancillary damage into zombies, that's fine. But whenever I play against undead, I really like targeting ghouls and wights, just because I think they're a little bit easier and higher value to take off the pitch if you can. And I absolutely love fouling mummies. So you know, take every shot you can at a mummy, as long as it's favorable to try to get them off the pitch, because the undead team gets so much less scary if they're down one mummy. Um, so
Yeah, that's gonna be the plan. That pretty much wraps up our coverage for this week. Any last thoughts?
yeah, I mean we're closing in on the playoff time. I think nobody is eliminated. I was looking at the past, and we've had like 12-point teams make it into the playoffs uh, in some divisions past. Now, I think in the next week or two, there will come a time where people are going to get eliminated from the playoffs. So everybody's in like a every win matters at this point in the season, and developing your team for the playoffs is still really important. So we just got to keep that stuff in mind as we're closing out the season.
That's going to do it for us this week. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you did, make sure you like this video, follow us on YouTube, wherever else you're listening to this. Also, check out our Substack. We've got some articles written up there by Fred, our awesome in-store style end reporter, doing some match reports and other random content for us. So, and we'll be putting some more stuff in there soon. I think we'll eventually get our rebuttal to the randoms article. But yeah, thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you all next week.
Yeah, goodbye, everybody.